So I get a lot of questions of what do you need to do to get your boat from storage to on the lake. So basically it's pretty simple. If you followed my winterize instructions with you winterizing it with the pink biodegradable coolant or antifreeze, you can run that stuff in the lake and it's biodegradable. It's not bad for the environment. If you change your gear oil in the fall, like I always do because you don't want water in there, you're ready to go there. So basically, if you winterize and followed my instructions, you're ready to go. So first thing you do actually though is charge your battery. You charge your battery every month or two on a trickle charge all winter long and keep it off concrete, maybe put it on a piece of wood or something like that. So then you want to check your fluids, check your oil, check your lower end gear oil reservoir if you have one. The Gen 2s and Alphas, or I'm sorry, the Alpha Gen 2 have them. I think it's 1992 and older or newer have a reservoir, I believe, in the Alpha drive. So make sure your lower end oil reservoir is filled. And like I said, if you have the Gen 1 and you did an oil change in the fall, which I highly recommend, you're good there. So basically just charge your battery and start it. Let's go inside the boat and start it. I got the battery charged, we should be good. So now that I have my charged battery showing over 13 volts, I hooked up all my positive cables and my negative cable pretty snug, and it might be a good idea to clean some of the connectors with some sandpaper. Now I'm gonna go outside the boat. I'm gonna hook up the ear muffs, the water muffs, put them on here. Make sure it fully covers both sides of the holes and you turn the holes on full blast. This is a very important part. Never run your boat dry because there's a rubber impeller inside here and it will burn up in a second. So never run your boat dry. Always put the earmuffs on and drop your lower end so you don't wreck your U-joints. Okay, I got my full water pressure on and I have an open cooling system, which means it draws water from the lake. So when you run it, it's going to be loud. You want to make sure it's flowing water out of the back of the transom here heavily. That's how you know your impeller is going. I recommend doing an impeller every 2 years for sure. Some people say every year, some people say every 4 years. But for sure, every 2 years at least. Okay, so I'm going to be ready to start it here. I don't have to use the blower motor because I have the hatch open. Sometimes you want to push this button, pull this out for a choke. I got my run on, trim down. Here we go. I'm going to give her hell. Look at that. First run of the season. It seems to be running good. I don't know, I hear maybe a little bit of a noise. Maybe it's the flappers, I don't know. Possibly the U-joint. I put a new gimbal bearing in it. Slow. It's a 2001 4.3. Obviously the Alpha 1 Gen 2. I believe in 1992 they went to the Gen 2. It's a little dusty. I'm going to give her a little pressure wash. Maybe it sounds perfect actually. Okay, when it's running, you're going to want to make sure that you're getting a right voltage reading, temperature gauge, and oil pressure. You want to make sure you warm it up. It's idling perfectly. Check the water in the back. It is still flowing fantastically. You couldn't really ask for better water flow. I had the impeller changed spring last year. So while I'm letting it warm up here, you might want to check your tire pressure and grease your bearing buddies if you have them, and check your trailer lights. Those are all just kind of side things, but they're important if you're trailering. So I'm getting a good reading here. Over 12 volts, full tank of gas like how I left it. It's not warm yet. Oil pressure is perfect. It's reading 40. There, I checked forward and reverse. It wasn't clicking too much. It went in perfectly. After you make sure all your water is flowing properly, check your bellows. So make sure you have no cracking in your bellows. You can't really see it. So turn your steering wheel, make sure there's no cracking in your main bellow, exhaust, your shift cable bellow, and you know, like I said, lube everything up. You know, maybe even take off the prop, make sure there's no fishing line spooled on there, which can get frayed up and cut into your seals. Just kind of all basic stuff. Make sure you're not dripping any hydraulic fluid, and you should be ready for the lake. This basically, I'm going to just tell you how to do your fuel water separator. I recommend doing it every single spring. I like to do it after I burn 1 tank of gas in the spring. That way any condensation that gets in the tank kind of sinks down into the fuel water separator. Sometimes on some boats, there's a screw on the bottom of the separator and you can just drain the water. Some boats don't even have a fuel water separator. This is a Alpha 1 Gen 2 2001. So here's my fuel water separator. It's kind of like an oil filter. When you put it on, make sure you use a little gas, a little oil around the rubber seal here. That way when you're tightening it up, it doesn't get all bunched up and stick, and it goes on there properly. So you can't see that there. And then basically it's right here on the engine. So what you want to do is get a ratchet strap, or not a ratchet, a strap, wrench, loosen it up, put a bag down there maybe so the gas doesn't run everywhere. Otherwise tilt your boat up because it will drip some gas probably. Lube this up. Put this back on there, and this will make the boat run better if you have too much water in there, and it's preventative maintenance. So again, do this every single year. It's this oil filter, I have the receipt right here, it's 20 bucks I believe. I bought this at West Marine, which if anybody knows, they're very expensive. Actually it was $21.49 with tax. So it's just one of those things, kind of like oil changes and lower end gear oil changes. Do it to prevent long-term damage. So there we go, that's how I get my boat from storage to on the lake. This boat is ready for the lake. The only thing I did was charge the battery, and I will change the fuel water separator after 1 tank of gas. And then since I changed the oil in the fall to prevent the acidic oil that was burnt up in there from going in any other gaskets, I'm going to check all the fluids again. And I changed the lower end oil also. And then I like to grease the points too, so don't forget that. Some of these bearings nowadays are sealed, but grease all your points. Like here's the point. These are like the pivot points. Point down here. Point here. So make sure you put some grease in there. And I think there's a couple more. Just look around. And then you should be good for the lake.